My friend Buster Wells has a daughter named Georgia, and Georgia married a bareback rider named Charlie Burns. And they had this beautiful baby boy, red-headed baby boy, and they named him Dawson Legate Burns. Dawson's about this tall now. And we got to play for his wedding not long ago, so it's been a while since I wrote that song. But after he was born, I told Georgia that I was very honored that she would name that boy Dawson Legate Burns, because the name Dawson Legate was simply a figment of my imagination. But I said, do me a favor and don't ever let him ride saddle broncs. I don't want that story to come true. She said, I don't care if he rides saddle broncs or rides bulls or bulldogs. I don't care what he does, as long as he grows up to have enough sense to marry a woman that's got enough sense to take care of them cattle if something happens to it. That's a good country attitude, isn't it? You know, what we call cowboy songs evolved from an art form that was poetic. And the cowboys didn't have instruments around the Chuck Wagon. Hollywood put the guitar in the hand of the cowboy in the movies. They didn't have guitars around that Chuck Wagon. That Chuck Wagon belonged to that cook. Still does. So whatever the cowboy had was rolled up in his bedroll, and it went in the hoodlum wagon. And if there was an instrument at all, the cowboy had a mouth harp in his bedroll, or the cook might play a fiddle or a banjo, and he'd have that in the wagon. But the cowboys didn't carry instruments except for a mouth harp. So they recited poetry as they would regale each other with stories of wrecks and wild cattle they'd seen that day, and they related their stories, a lot of them poetically. And then later on they put music to them. Well, about 1904, Jack T. Thorpe was a great songwriter and a collector of historical songs and poems. And we had fenced off the West, and the cowboy thought that his way of life was gone forever, and the way he knew it was gone. And every generation thinks theirs is going to be the last to see the cowboy on horseback, working cattle, providing beef for the dinner tables of America. But it endures because of folks like you. I'd like to tell you a story about a tarnished old bell, one we'd all love to hear ring again. It's a graphic reminder of the glorious West and of horses and cattle and men. It hung around the neck of an old Goodnight steer, the big one the cowboys called Blue. The colonel had got him on the bosky from Chisholm in the winter of '72. Colonel Goodnight sent thousands of steers up the trail. They learned to follow that bell day and night. So at sundown, the boss put a strap on the clapper so the steers would stay bedded and quiet, because if old Blue got restless and started to roam, there'd be a stampede sure as hell, because the cattle would immediately be on their feet and move to the sound of that bell. I remember a camp out on 7 Mile Hill. In the distance were the Dodge City lights. About midnight it started to storming like hell, and lightning balls danced in the night, and the boss yelled, "Find Blue and undo the clapper, get 'em up, string 'em out on the trail." Well, Blue swam the river, headed straight for the yards, with 2,000 steers on his tail. The rail cars were loaded, and we headed her south, and the boys stayed to Dodge, except a few like me and Frank Mitchell and club-footed Jack. We took the wagon, the remuda, and Blue. And the sky seemed like bluer headed back south through the land where the buffalo roam, where the dust devils dance their waltz with the wind. Old Blue was a-leading us home. He was turned out at the Kittiquay Ranch, like a gentleman, pampered in style. But we'd occasionally neck him to an old outlaw steer. Blue loved that. He'd drag him 10 miles. When the Lord called old Blue up that trail in the sky, the colonel had us cut off his horns. He said, "Blue don't need 'em. They'll remind us of him, of trail drives and stampedes and storms." We still work cattle. We don't trail 'em to Dodge because fences now stand in the way. And the colonel, he's riding that trail in the sky, but cowboys still brand the J.A. I reminisce, I'm reminded that I am one of the fortunate few who's had the privilege of hearing a night herder's song and the sound of that bell on Old Blue. Now little Joe the Wrangler will wrangle nevermore. His days with the remuda, they're all done. Long about last April when he rode into our camp, just a little Texas stray and all alone. It was long late in the evening when he rode into our camp on a little low brown pony he called Chuck. With his brogan shoes and coveralls, a harder looking kid you'd never in your life had seen before. His saddle was a southern cack built many years ago, had an okay spur on one foot idly hung. His hot rolling a cotton sack was loosely tied behind, and a canteen from the saddle horn he'd slung. Said he'd had to leave his home because his pa had married twice, and his new ma beat him every day or two. So he saddled up old Joe one night and lit a Chuck this way. Thought he'd try and paddle down his own canoe. Said he'd try and do the best he could if we'd only give him work. But we didn't know straight up about a cow. So the boss, he cut him out a mountain, kinder put him on. We knew he liked our little stray somehow. Cause he taught him how to herd the horses and learn to know them all, and around them up by daylight if he could. And to follow the Chuck Wagon and to always hitch the team, and to help the coast whenever Russell would. We'd driven to Red River, oh the weather it was fine. We'd camped down on the south side in a bend, when a norther started blowing and we called the extra guard, 'cause it took all hands to hold the cattle in. And now little Joe the Wrangler was called out with all the rest, and barely had the kid got to the herd, when the cattle they stampeded like a hailstorm on May flood, with all of us riding for the lead. Then between the streaks of lightning we could see a horse ahead. Was little Joe the Wrangler in the lead. He was riding Old Blue Rocket with his slicker over his head, and he is trying to check the leaders in their speed. Well, we finally got 'em milling and they sort of quieted down, and the extra guard back to the camp did go. One of them was missing, we all knew at a glance, was our little Texas stray, poor Wrangler Joe. Found him there at sunup where Old Blue Rocket fell, in a washout some 20 feet below. Beneath his horse mashed to a pulp, his spurs had rung the knell for our little Texas stray, poor Wrangler Joe. And now little Joe the Wrangler will wrangle nevermore. His days with a remuda, they're all done. Long about last April when he rode into our camp, just a little Texas stray and all alone.